First, I just want to say it's incredibly full circle to be back in this room. Um, Labor's House was actually where my freshman orientation nearly 4 years ago was hosted. And this is exactly why I ran for Congress, to ensure that in our policies, in our advocacy, that we leave no worker, no family, no community behind. And so it is good to be in Labor's House. President Schuler, I want to say thank you to you. One of the things I love about labor is that we greet each other as brothers and sisters because we do recognize that we are one human family and that our destinies and our freedoms are truly tied. So it is wonderful to be here with all of you at this convening. And here on behalf of the millions of workers and families across this nation right now who understand that this really is a kitchen table issue. There were certainly many efforts to perpetuate a false narrative to marginalize this issue. And due to the work of this coalition and the bravery of many who've shared their stories, and I say bravery because there is tremendous shame associated with debt. There is tremendous shame associated with struggle. But struggle is not a moral or character failing. There is no shame in struggle. The shame The shame is that we are not doing everything within our power to alleviate the burden of that struggle. This is a mainstream issue. This is an impactful issue for people from every walk of life. For our elders who cannot retire because they took out Parent Plus loans and they are still paying on those loans. For our young teachers who cannot pay the monthly minimum because they are also struggling to pay for child care. For the service worker who feels that they will never get back on their feet because they have gone into default and can't come up with that monthly student loan payment to get back on track, not even the minimum. These are the stories that I hear in every single room that I'm in, every table that I'm seated at. These are the stories of millions of hardworking people who will have their lives changed forever and for good when President Biden cancels student loan debt. And as we sit in this room with this incredible mural behind us and on the heels of Juneteenth, Freedom Day, it's impossible for me to not conjure up the leadership and to evoke the names of A. Philip Randolph and others who marched here. That march on Washington, we must never forget, was a march for jobs and freedom. Freedom. It was a march for workers' rights. It was a march for economic and racial justice. And in fact, we are still, even if we're seated, in that march. Freedom. Freedom is about being unburdened. And nearly 2 trillion people from every walk of life are burdened by this crushing student debt. And with the stroke of a pen, unilaterally, without one vote or action from Congress, we can do something about it, and we must. Now, again, at its roots, organized labor is about giving workers a chance to live and to thrive. It's the audacity to fight for better wages, for reasonable hours, and safer working conditions. That fight to ensure that we value our nation's workers for more than just their labor, but for the full contributions they make to our communities. This is a fight not just because we value your labor, but because we give a damn about your lives and that of your families. We owe so much to our labor movement siblings who have always helped to center and to lift the voices of workers, and your push and your allyship in the fight to push for student debt cancellation is certainly no different. Let me be clear. This movement has never been stronger, and it's because it is driven by people and a diverse coalition. We know that canceling $50,000 per borrower will help millions of union families to get back on track. And as has been mentioned before, this is a racial justice issue. Due to generations of precise, what I would characterize as policy violence, that was precise and disproportionately impacting Black Americans, particularly Black women, policies like redlining, forcing us to take on higher student debt loads than our white peers just for a shot at a college degree. We've been told we live in a meritocracy. We've been told that education is the great equalizer. There were economists who predicted that if we pursued higher education, that we would narrow the racial wealth gap. This has only exacerbated and grown the racial wealth gap. Student debt cancellation will help reduce the racial wealth gap by nearly 30% and help millions of Black and brown folks achieve the dream of home ownership and build generational wealth. Yes, there have been strides made, and Black Americans and some marginalized communities have income, but income is not wealth. The march is for freedom to be unburdened. And we owe it to the millions of union workers who have kept our nation running during these unprecedented, challenging times, keeping our families and our communities safe, fed, and healthy. And while I know that there are a select few who want our educators to be guards, what they are guides and nation builders. And we thank them for pouring into our babies. We thank those who have kept our factories and our plants running, getting us to where we need to go. Student debt cancellation is core to any just and equitable economic recovery from this pandemic. I said that I ran for Congress because I wanted to ensure we leave no worker, no family, no community behind. In this recovery from this pandemic-induced recession, this is a critical and necessary strategy to ensure that we leave no one behind, and in fact, that we have an equitable and robust recovery. So we are closer than ever to getting this done. We wouldn't be here today if it weren't for each and every one of your members organizing at the local level. I'm eternally grateful. And I do just want to take a quick moment. I want to acknowledge someone who has been on my team, the steward of this effort. I was an aide, y'all, for 16 years, so I'm going to acknowledge my staff. I just want to thank my deputy chief of staff, my legislative director, Aisa Conchola, who is the baby of a proud union member who has been the architect behind this strategy in our office. And I just want to say thank you to her. All right, let's get this done, y'all.
Right. Thank you.